Cool.
Well, I'm over here.
.com.
Over here. Hi. What's wrong?
geekycool.com. and Michael Decker, who is our big guest today. And unfortunately, we're missing Brittney, who couldn't make it to this particular recording. So just make sure you catch up her new series, which is now completely out, called Strange Happenings. And you'll catch it on the YouTube channel for American Wasteland Entertainment.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
I've got a review on geekycool.com about that, and I gave that an A. That series is phenomenal.
It's fun.
Yeah,
it is a lot of fun. Anyway, first and foremost, we're going to have our big interview with Mr. Michael Decker. Michael.
Yes, sir.
Dude, you are a geek legend in this area.
I think you're giving me too much credit.
Oh, dude. First and foremost. Now, you're originally from Crocker, Missouri.
Yes, yeah.
Which is about an hour and 30 minutes from here.
About an hour and 30 minutes, yeah. So tiny little town.
So then what's it like growing up geek in a tiny little town?
No, we were pariahs, man. It was bad. Friend of mine and myself and his couple of brothers, we introduced Dungeons and Dragons to a town of 700 people.
Yep.
It's in the country.
Yep.
I mean, it is deep in the woods, and it was tough times. It was tough times to be a geek because people didn't know what was going on. And it was like, what are they heard about Dungeons and Dragons because the news was saying like, yeah, they're out there worshiping the devil and killing people. And it's like, great, that's the press that we need. So yeah, it's back in the old days, back in the golden age. It was not as accepting as we are these days. Yeah. So it's if you wanted to make sure that you never got a date, you wanted to play D&D.
I had the same problem, Michael, except what I did was I went out of town. Because we just dated the girls a couple times over.
That
part of it.
That's
what we did.
So, but we were too busy playing games to date. So I mean, that was really off the table.
I try to do both.
We had to prioritize.
So now you were also into comics.
Yeah.
How did you get your comics fix being in a small town?
Well, oddly enough, my mother and her twin brother, when they were young, had picked up comic books. And they were, of course, this was the 40s and 50s, and so Marvel really as an entity wasn't around back then. Spider-Man didn't come around until 63, 64, something like that. So, it was all Flash and Batman, Superman, World's Finest, Justice League. So, and they didn't, even though comics were 10 cents, 12 cents, 15 cents, back then that sounds like nothing, but 15 cents, you could go see a movie for 15 cents.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was technically kind of a lot of money back then. So they had a few comics. So when I was growing up, and very, very young, before I could even read, I was raised by my mother's mother, my grandmother. And so the old comic books were still there. Mm. And it wasn't like any valuable, super valuable issues or anything. It was just, and they were all reader material type thing. I mean, the covers were still on them, but so I would just look at the pictures, and just kind of get the gist of the story, because the stories were pretty simplistic back then. You fight the bad guy, the good guy wins.
Yeah.
And then, of course, learn to read a little bit more, and then didn't really get so much into the Batman comics at that time, even though the Batman television show was on when I was 3, mm-hmm. And I have distinct, very early memories, and I would attribute my earliest memory involved the old 66 show. Mm-hmm. So I actually, when I first started collecting comics, I started picking up Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. Is the first one I picked up.
Yeah, you would have been at the right age to really get into
because Marvel was really hitting.
Right.
Then the X-Men, especially, and the Spider-Man, probably around the issues, just before the issue 100, probably around the 90s, So I mean, I read The Death of Gwen Stacy,
right.
And The Death of Green Goblin, and I was there when the Punisher first showed up. So I mean, those were brand new comics. These were new concepts to kill off the superhero's girlfriend,
Right.
in an issue, and it not be like an imaginary story. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
And so I picked up Spider-Man, and then I was picked up some X-Men, things like that. And it really wasn't until the '89 Keaton movie, Batman Keaton movie, that I sort of like remembered why I loved Batman so much. I liked the '66 show when I was a kid, because when they put him in the death traps when you're 4 and 5 years old, that's some serious stuff.
Yeah.
The tiger was going to eat Robin.
Right.
But so you kind of like matured past that into the Marvel comics, and but then the Keaton movie made me remember why I really really liked that character, and why, and some of the things that kind of made me identify with that character. There's some, and it's not like a messed up psychological. There's some very deep psychological connections that I have to the character and the concept of the character of Batman and Bruce Wayne. So it really. It has a hold of my heart, really hard.
Yeah.
So I started picking up Batman again, and Justice League, and Superman, Wonder Woman, and just sort of migrated away from the Marvel comic, because this was right at the '90s where Marvel started losing its way.
Right.
And it was they were all about variant covers and crossovers and limited series, and it was just. I understand that the business is there to make money, but they had just turned comics into a money machine.
Right.
And DC hadn't crossed that line yet at that point. They were just still writing solid comics.
Yeah.
And so I got back into that, kind of rediscovered my love for Batman and Superman, Robin, and such. So that's where it kind of came full circle for me.
Yeah. Well, and jumping into the '90s, so by the '90s, you had already made it to Springfield.
Yes, yeah. I came to Springfield in very end of '84, maybe the first month or two of '85, I think.
So at what point did you start your own business?
I worked at a hobby shop called the Hobby Dashery when I first moved to Springfield.
That's where we first met.
Yeah, that's where we first met. They eventually went out of business, and myself and another gentleman there decided, well, there's a market for this, and we kind of cut some of the fat off of it, and like, well, we're not selling this stuff because the margins aren't very good, so we didn't sell radio control, we didn't sell the model trains and things like that. We stayed with models, like plastic models, cars, planes, stuff like that. And games, and we started that in. We opened up August 12th of '94. And then
Boneheads.
Boneheads Hobbies, and then I ran that for 7 years. The first 3 years with my partner, I ended up buying him out. He just didn't have the. He really didn't. He's a great guy, and he passed away a couple of years ago. But he just it just wasn't for him. He really just didn't give it the attention that. In the right direction that he needed to. So I bought him out, and I kept it open for 7 years. Wasn't making a tremendous amount of money at it. I think when I factored my time that I spent at the job versus my actual money I took out of it, I didn't really take a paycheck. It was like I have this much money left at the end of the week.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've got bills to pay. I think I've calculated I was making just right at $4 an hour.
Wow.
And my oldest daughter, Felicia, came up to me one day, and I think she was 8 at the time, and we were talking, and she said, "Dad, can I ask you something?" And I said, "Well, yeah, sure." She said, "Why don't you like being at home?" And I said, What do you mean? Why do I not like being at home? I don't understand." She says, "Well, you're never home." She says, "You're always at your store, and we don't get to see you."
Wow.
So, I mean, that drove a nail in that coffin.
Right.
I had the store closed down within, I think, 3 or 4 months. I decided that night that my priorities were not in the right place. And, a lot of people, I know when I first closed the store down, there were some people that resented me for doing it.
Well, part of it, at least within the geek community, is that you had one of the first official places where people could actually go and hang out.
I did. I ended up making it like that on purpose, where we had the chairs up in front, kind of the for guys to hang out, or for tired mothers, that were there with their horrible children to do their shopping until they got done. But I always tried to make it a good atmosphere. I kind of had a little area in the back that guys could hang out and play games. I didn't charge for it or anything like that. And I figured, well, as long as I'm there and they can use that spot, it's not really affecting, my business any, and it really wasn't even a question of like, well, you have to buy your stuff here.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make it a nice atmosphere for the people to hang out and just kind of, congregate and, be with each other.
Well, it was one of the first places that I remember ever doing that.
Yeah.
There are a few other places where you could go, but yours was probably the most relaxing place.
Oh, yeah. We were laid back. Yeah, we were laid back.
So now you eventually started to go to, well, you heard about the Visionary Guild.
Mm-hmm.
Had you had any dealings with them when they were still doing that stuff before
No,
they created Vision Quest?
No, I mean, I would go and hang out down at the comic page, once in a while. I didn't have any kind of like, well, they're in the same kind of business that I am. They sold comic books and games. I sold games and models. We had a crossover, so there wasn't any kind of like rivalry.
Right.
There. It was just, they were just another store that sold some stuff that I sold.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have had their business, but, it's not my say to make people come over to shop with me. So I didn't really have any dealings with them other than, when VisionCon first started then, I started going to VisionCon. Oddly enough, the first VisionCon was February 24th of 1990. If I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
I got married February 24th of 1990. So my anniversary and VisionCons are identical.
Wow.
So it's always easy to remember how long VisionCon. There was a year that VisionCon did not happen.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm getting ready to celebrate in February my 28th year, whereas VisionCon's doing their 27th.
Yeah.
But as far as the inception of VisionCon, it's the same day.
So you were pretty much there from the beginning.
Pretty close, yeah. I obviously didn't go to that first one, but I think I was probably at the third one or so. And
your wife wouldn't let you leave the wedding to go?
Well, honestly, I don't think I knew about it. I honestly don't think I really knew about it. I didn't really do conventions and stuff at the time.
Sure.
And conventions wasn't the business that it is now.
Right.
It was just some guys got together, they, rented a space in a hotel and they ran some games.
That was pretty much it.
Yeah.
There wasn't very much that first
No.
incarnation, but well, now then you just stuck with it. I mean, you kept going back and eventually you got on staff.
Yeah. I've been on staff a couple of times. I was on staff for a while, and there was a falling out, I guess, with the chairman at that time.
Yeah.
So we parted ways, and so I was out for a little bit, and then they asked me at one point a few years ago if I would come back and just be a judge at their costume contest, and I said sure. So that was the year that Aaron Douglas from Battlestar Galactica was there, and he was one of the judges, and a couple of the celebrity guys there, or guests of honor there, and so we were there at the costume contest, and it was the typical costume contest where people just came out on stage. You're there at a table, you see the costumes from like 20, 30 feet away, and you just kind of decide which one you like better, and that really wasn't for me. And so when I was asked about it later on, how it was, I said, don't ever ask me to come back and judge a costume contest again.
So at that point, had you been making costumes yet, or were you still?
I was making them. I was making props and costumes for my kids.
Yeah.
At that point, I wanted to do a costume at some point. I just didn't really know what I wanted to do or how I wanted to approach doing it.
Yeah.
So I was involved because I like making things, from the hobby shop and stuff. I started out by just kind of making props and things, and then kind of got into the costume. I don't sew or anything, but I kind of would design stuff and work out the mechanics of it, and then Somebody else would sew the costumes up, but they would be like, how are we going to attach this piece to this piece? Because they all kind of like layer and sandwich together, and we can't. How do we do that? And I would think about it, look at it, and I go, why don't we just put magnets in everything? And I'm like, oh, well, that works now. And because there was really no other way to put them together. And I like problem solving the stuff. I like getting a vision, and I like trying to figure out how can I make this work. And video games and comic books are notoriously maddening for.
Right.
I want to make a costume out of that, and it's like, well, it's not like, hey, that Marvel movie, man, Iron Man's awesome. I want to make an Iron Man suit. It's like, well, it's obvious they've made a suit in some portion. Somebody's made that, so
Yeah.
it is possible. But when you're looking at like doing the character Spawn, I want that cape. I want that cape that goes 30 feet. Okay, well, we got to dial it back in the real world physics, and that's tough.
Yeah.
Because like the Batman, for example, he has his walking cape, which goes down to about mid-calf. And then he's got his dramatic capes. He's got the one that he glides with, and it's about 15 feet across.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's got the cape where he stands there as the pillar of black, and it pools around him. Well, that's obviously longer than the calf. That's the one where he's on the rooftop and it's trailing out to the side and the cape's 20 feet long. So trying to find the medium is fun to do. It's aggravating, but it's fun.
Well, then how did you go from creating props and costumes for your kids and friends to selling your wife on the fact that you needed to make a Batman costume?
I was tired of lugging my kids' crap around. We'd go to conventions, and I would be, the pack mule. My wife would generally stay home. She didn't go to them at that time, and I'd go there, and the kids would buy their stuff, or they'd wear their costumes, and so here I am with their street clothes or whatever, in a duffel bag or what have you, and I would see these costumes. And I thought, man, I really want to do a costume. It's like I really, really want to do a Batman costume. So I started thinking about that, and then as I thought more about it, it got into the design phase of doing it. It's like, well, what costume do I want? And it's like, well, at that time, a guy named Paul Roberts was doing Batman Returns and 89 Batman costumes, and so he was making the rubber masks and the rubber bib, and gauntlets and things like that. And I emailed him and asked him, like a new person, like, hey, how much for your costumes? Well, back then Warner was all over shutting you down.
Yeah.
He was like, I don't make Batman. I don't sell Batman costumes. I'm thinking, well, I know that's not true. So he directed me to an internet group called Brotherhood of the Bat. And I got on there and I started looking at people's stuff. And then I kind of saw what was possible out there. And I saw a lack of the comic book style. And when I said the comic book style, I wanted the Batman suit that the cape was of a certain length to where I'm bridging. It's mine actually drags the floor.
Yeah.
Because I want to stand there and close it up and have that pool of black, just because a big heavy cape looks cool like that.
Yeah.
So I made it a little longer. It's a little more difficult to walk in, but I really wanted to pull that cowl back and have that lie across the back of my shoulders. Well, you can't do that with a rubber mask, and those things are hard to put on.
Yeah.
They're even harder to take off.
Right.
And I thought, I don't want to suffer that much for a costume, and so I came up with the design for mine, and saved up money for the materials and just worked on the design work for probably a good year and a half, maybe.
Wow.
Just drawing stuff out, sketching it out, just figuring out in my head. I would just go to bed at night, and I would lie in bed, and I would start thinking about where would the scene go on that, where it'd be most practical, and how's the closure, how am I going to get this thing on and off, where would the closure need to be. So I would go to bed at night, just think about that.
Well, now, having seen, the final product, I mean, alone, how much did just that cape alone cost you?
It went into the 4-figure range.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. for the materials. And then of course there's the labor, and then I actually had to have a local shop sew it together for me. I did all the design and pattern work on it. Bought the leather, cut the sections of leather out, and then we did a test cape out of just bed sheets I got at one of the like Goodwill or something like that.
Wow.
To kind of see how that patterns would work and lie out. And from there, once we had established that we could do this, that's when I ended up getting the leather. I already had the patterns, but we bought the leather and cut it out and actually fit it together. And there's a lot of design work that you don't think about. Like my cape, I wanted to be able to stand there and have it pull around me in a circle.
Yeah.
If you watch the '89 Keaton movie, you'll notice that his cape hangs in the back and it hangs in the front, but it has this dip that goes up on his sides.
Okay.
And the reason is because that's a half round cape or a 3/4 round cape. And it's all equal lengths. Each of those panels is an equal length. Well, from here to here is a certain length. From here to here
It's a different length.
is a different length because your shoulders are taking up real estate.
Yeah.
And so what that does is it takes those sides and it pulls the side up. So his cape actually goes like this. So, and of course the back of your shoulders take up just a little bit more room.
Right.
So we designed that all out so that taking my build into consideration when I'm wearing the cape and we spread it out around me, it's a circle. So it looks like the comic book is supposed to, but that's, once again, it's comic book physics.
Yes. Yes.
You know, so technically the sides are longer than the front and the back.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
That is. I would have never thought about that.
Yeah,
much.
it always bothered me when I would watch the Keaton because I was like, why is the Keaton doing that? And I went, it's because it's round.
So now you've had the opportunity to get dressed up as Batman and attend places and events like even, Dragon Con in Atlanta, which is this huge event that might as well just be a cosplay-centric event with additional other things going
Really,
on.
it is. I think this last year, I haven't gone the last 2 years, but I think this last year and it's hard to estimate. I mean, you've got your paying patrons, and then you've got people who just kind of wander in.
Yeah.
Because they're local or semi-local. Their estimates were 75,000,
Wow.
and this is in 3 hotels.
Yeah. If I happen to be there this year.
Yeah.
So yes, it's definitely an entire city that embraces.
It really is. It's really cool because especially downtown Atlanta, it's they get involved in this thing because they know the revenue is there.
Right.
So if they're con friendly, they stand to make some money. I mean, the CVS alone, these guys, it's probably like Black Friday for them.
Yeah.
I mean, their money's probably made that weekend.
They were happy to see everybody.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
It's something that I was never really used to seeing before.
It's
a city that
amazing.
embraces all of their patrons.
They've gotten to the point now where they have like their little point of sales bins, and they fill this bin with duct tape, and this one's got hand sanitizer, and this one they've got a giant stack of water over here.
Yes.
Because they know what people are looking for at this point, and they capitalize on it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's smart.
So it's really cool. Yeah. It's outgrown me. I think I'm going to retire from that when I want to do Metropolis this next year.
Nice.
That would be a neat one.
Yeah. A couple of guys that have went to that tell me it's really fun. It's laid back, and so I want to give that one a shot.
You should.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming.
Well,
Thanks
yeah.
for joining us.
Will
Yeah.
Superman take offense to Batman being?
Oh no. There's Marvel characters show up to that thing. I mean, it's just it used to be the Superman celebration, but they're not going to turn away paying customers.
Oh, right. That's true.
So yeah, no, it's been really fun doing the Batman stuff. It's led me to other areas that I didn't anticipate it leading to, charity work and stuff. So.
Yeah. What is that? I mean, exactly the Heroes Alliance. Explain exactly what it is.
Heroes Alliance, if you're familiar with the 501st, the guys that the stormtrooper costumers that go out and they do the charity work, and the hospital visits and things like that. Heroes Alliance is very much like that. They do Marvel and DC heroes. They don't do bad guys because when you're dealing with little bitty kids, when you show up, they believe that you're that guy.
Yeah.
So if the Joker shows up or Thanos shows up, it's scary for them.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them take it really well because it's just another comic book guy, and that's the guy Batman fights, you know.
Yeah.
But others are afraid of that. So they've got some they're strict guidelines. And some people say like, well, I just think you guys have got too many rules. Well, these guys have been around, the organization's been around for 12 years, and this organization was established from existing groups prior to that. So they've dealt with all of this up to that point. And so they know when you go to the hospitals, you know, with HIPAA regulations and stuff, you don't take pictures with the kids in the hospitals unless you have a signed waiver, you know, from the parents. And I just think, to me, that's just poor form to get a picture with the kids.
Yeah,
you know,
it's really
if the
about
parents
the
want to take a
kids.
picture of
Yeah.
me, that's fine. But I've never had my picture taken with a child that wasn't the parent taking the picture, because I just think that's, you know, poor form.
You're right.
To do that. So I mean, they've got, and they've just got some helpful tips. It's like if you're in the hospital and you're visiting a kid, you don't know which ones necessarily are terminally ill, so you never say, "Hey, get better."
Yeah.
Hey, I'll see you later, because you stand a chance that the kid knows that you're not going to, and you don't want to remind him of that.
Right.
Yeah.
They say if you're going to start crying or tear up, leave the room. Leave the room, because the kid does not want to. They don't need any more of that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
they've got a lot of rules. They got a lot of guidelines. They're there for a reason. So when I started doing the costuming, I had a local school ask me if I would go and do a reading program for them. The reading is fundamental thing. So yeah, I'll go do that. So I did that, and it was like, this is really cool. You know, I made some kids' day. You know, I made their day, made them smile, made them happy, and so I got another an offer from that to. I want to go say that I went to a Boys and Girls Club maybe, and then I think that led to like a Boy Scout meeting. We eventually did the American Diabetes Association has this gigantic like fundraiser auction down in Arkansas that they found out about me, so they had us go down to down to Arkansas there to be at their big charity auction. They put us up in the hotel, you know, paid for our gas out there, which we never asked for money, but they offered to do it. So we did, but we've done Special Olympics, which is tremendously fun. I love doing Special Olympics. Yeah, it's led to areas that I'm, you know, naturally acclimated to do, you know, helping people. I never envisioned when I made a Batman costume to go hang out with my kids that it would lead me to doing charity work, and you know, now I'm the Missouri chapter leader for the Heroes Alliance. So it's an avenue I didn't anticipate, but I embrace.
Wow.
With the Heroes Alliance, if somebody is watching this and they are interested, how can they find out more information?
Go to heroesalliance.org, and that's the parent organization's website. They have all of the information. You'll find out if the organization is for you as far as joining up, or if you're saying like, well, who are they? I'd kind of like to have some of these guys show up, but I don't know who they are. There's information about them there, and if you are interested in joining up, or if you're interested in having the Heroes Alliance at your event, just email them from that website, and then the webmaster disperses that information out to wherever the local branches are.
Also, the superhero, the webmaster.
Yeah, kind of. That's his special power.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I've got some other questions for you also.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no.
I'll do this.
I'm here for however long. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I just some curiosity things. One of the things, Brittney, who we mentioned was not able to be here with us today.
Because I'm here. I heard that she said if he's the guest, then I'm not out.
No, don't take that offensively.
I don't know. I'm old. It doesn't bother me anymore.
No, but she wanted to know, what was it about Batman that drew you to that character? What was it that really resonated with his character, his personality, that brought you to him?
I think probably initially was that just the old show, the old Adam
Right.
West show, because it was exciting. You know,
Right.
it was the only thing of its kind at the time, and I was at such a young age that it made a really big impact. But I was raised by my grandparents out in this little town on the outskirts of this little town. So it was basically, I didn't have any siblings or anything, so it was just, you know, me.
Right.
And your imagination.
And my imagination. But there's just been, you know, kind of the loner aspect of Batman, but then he's got this odd extended family.
Right.
You know, that he sort of like doesn't entirely embrace, but they're definitely a part of his life. And I'm not trying to make like bragging similarities, but it's just, I kind of recognize, you know, certain things. You know, there's a certain sad tragedy, you know, in his life, even beyond just his parents and stuff like that. And you know, there's obviously I don't want to get into details, but I've had very rough patches in my life that I embrace the similarities, and I can kind of find this you know, camaraderie with this fictional character that I just kind of recognize in myself, and I see that even though he has distanced himself and progressed beyond that, they're very inherently part of his makeup that he can't quite escape, and I kind of have that in my life, oddly enough. So it's no murder or tragedies like that, but just, you know, events, different things that you know, you just sort of like make connections of like, oh, I never thought about it that way before. So it's just it's just a character that resonates with me.
Most definitely. Well, I feel that way about Peter Parker. So that's my character. When you're talking about growing up reading Spider-Man early on, I'm like, yeah, that was the character for me, because I also was, I don't know if I got old copies or whatever of Gwen Stacy's death, but I remember reading those as a kid and being very moved. Like you said, like, oh my gosh, they just killed Spider-Man's girlfriend. What in the world is going to happen? And then the next issue, you get that and you find out that Spider-Man is almost going to kill a Green Goblin over it. And then he changes his mind at the last moment.
And then he ends up getting killed anyways.
Ends up getting
but it's a nice cathartic moment where he had pulled himself back from that edge. But karma and fate took a hand for him.
Exactly. And then he sort of died and sort of came back.
Well, I mean, there's very little is permanent in comic books.
Who would you say are your favorite 3 actors to play Batman?
In no particular order, I would say Keaton, Affleck, and Adam West.
All right.
He was okay. And I'm not counting the boy. If you count the voice actors, I really admire Kevin Conroy. But as far as like, you know, live action stuff, I would say it's that 3. Adam West is just near and dear because, you know, he's part of my childhood.
Exactly.
He's Adam West.
And he's all West. And then Keaton rekindled my love for the character. And Affleck, I think, to me, just makes a really good Batman. You know, there's I didn't really care for the Christian Bale movies so much because, and not because of him necessarily, it's the direction that Nolan took with it.
Well, it's a crime drama.
It's a crime drama. It's too grounded in reality, which breaks when it's Batman and you're trying to make it realistic. Well, you've ruined it. You just the concept is ruined at that point.
Well, ironically, that, you know, you may feel that way, but that's really what everyone that makes the X-Men films, they point to Batman Begins as their starting point as far as how they make their movies. So after the first 2 X-Men movies, that's the direction that they wanted to go, and they use that, and they say that they use that as their guiding light.
And they blew it on X3 then.
They blew it on everyone after.
I was going to say they blew it on Logan.
A couple of the ones afterwards. We agree on the last one though.
You have to really separate comic book history from the X-Men movies if you're going to enjoy it.
That's true. That's true.
Continuity does not mean anything.
No.
Well, and that was a time where, you know, just having some representation of a character on screen was a big deal because we really didn't have anything. And in the 90s when the X-Men movies hit, you're like, oh my gosh, finally something. And okay, Wolverine doesn't really look like what he does in the comics, or Rogue is not.
Well, there's room to make changes. I mean, the thing about the success of a film like Blade shows what you can do when you're willing to take a character that might not be that well known and make some changes. And again, thank goodness for Blade. Blade came in at the right time.
Right, it certainly did.
After Batman and Robin in '97, Blade coming out in '98 could not have happened. Just geez, I thank goodness for that movie, because really the superhero genre needed to be saved, and it wasn't really dead for that long, maybe a year at best.
Yeah.
And then you come into 2000 with X-Men, and wow.
I'm very much maligned for my opinion, but I think that if the studio had been less involved with, this is how we really want this to go, so you're going to need to make some changes, I honestly think that had it been a good story, had the director been able to do a good story, that George Clooney would have been a good Batman. I think he had the capacity for playing the slightly older. Death of my parents, but I've moved past that. I think he was given I think he was just given a pile of junk to work with, and he did what he was supposed to do, and paid the price for it.
I will say this. The director, for the longest time, never really wanted to take responsibility for the movie he ultimately ended up making. That said, I do also have to apologize for not believing his story about how he wanted to make these movies. Because really, I hate to say it, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate mail for it, but, when you get into being a Batman fan and you start to look at the history of the comics, I have to give it up and say Batman and Robin is basically an interpretation of the same source material that was used for creating the Batman television series. That's exactly what it was. But the difference was you had and for the Batman television series, I should say, they were using basically the same things that went into making the original Batman films of the 40s. Because that's really how they were doing it for all the addition of leading into the additions that they held leading into the Batman television series. So all three using the same source material, but you get a different result. And since you weren't really playing it for laughs, it made it harder to deal with the resulting film that they ended up making and coming out with in '97. I mean, a lot of your guest stars in that film, Schwarzenegger and everyone else, seem to be really into trying to play it for laughs. And one of Schwarzenegger's better performances. But it's just, it's...
Well, without the bat nipples, it would go a long way.
Yes.
So, there's a lot to be said for bad casting and bad story.
They should have went with Patrick Stewart for Mr. Freeze, in my opinion.
Sure.
That should have been the direction they should have gone, and they chose Arnold because he was a bankable name.
Well, like I said, too much of the studio running the show and not having their finger on the pulse of what's appealing versus what they think will make them money.
Oh, that's the thing. That's where we are now. I think the unfortunate thing is that way of doing things really is the norm with every studio, with the exception of Disney. That's the reason why Disney was able to change how they did things. The moment Robert Iger got hired and started running Disney the way that he has been running it, you notice all these incredible things have happened. And instead of having instances like, he was able to close the deal with Pixar because he wasn't the last guy that was there. Pixar saw what he wanted to do, bought into it, and it made everything easier. From the moment Robert Iger closed the deal with Pixar, everything else, from Lucasfilm to buying Marvel, and it just made everything easier, but that is not the norm. And now, as we have seen over the last just year to 5 years, it is becoming more and more of a special thing as more studios and even certain properties, even within Disney ownership, are starting to have problems where you have now a top-down approach is the way that they approach how to make movies. And so now no longer you have directors that are visionaries for films. You now are technically just a hired hand, and you have to do what you're being told to do because you are spending a lot of money.
Well, they see the success of movie A and B, and so that's what we need to do with C.
Right.
And that formula may not work for C, but that's the way you're going to go.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times they're taking one little piece out of something that made a whole movie work, and assuming that one little piece is what made it successful, and that's often not. Making it R-rated isn't going to make it have the success of Deadpool.
No.
And I think we've seen that. You know, we're gonna make comic book movies R-rated. Well, that can work for certain comic book movies, but you know, there's other characters. I don't want to see a Spider-Man R-rated movie.
No,
I don't want to. Right? Yeah. So it just depends on the character. I mean, a Punisher, sure.
Yeah.
Well, you can do an R-rated Spider-Man if it's Spider-Man 2099.
Yeah.
Well,
sure.
Well, once again, with the right character,
Yeah.
Exactly. So, all right. Well, you mentioned Batman's extended family. Who is your favorite and least favorite members of the extended family?
Oh gosh, it would probably be a tie between Batman and Batgirl, or Robin and Batgirl as far as my favorites.
Right.
Well, which Robin?
Dick Grayson, original Robin.
The Robin.
The Robin. You know, my Robin, basically.
Right.
As far as his least, you know, I just they've all got their charm. I mean, for what they are. I mean, the obvious answer would be like, Jason Todd. Jason Todd's just dreadful. Red Hood. I just hate that guy. But his story's solid enough that it's, you know, it's tough to say that I like him the least. You know, or like you know, Damian Wayne, Bruce Wayne's, you know, biological son. That's Robin. There was a time, you know, when Bruce Wayne was out of the picture, and so Dick Grayson took up the mantle of Batman.
Grant Morrison's run.
Yeah, and then Robin, Damian Wayne became Robin, stepped into the role of Robin, and it was so opposite. It was like you've got Dick Grayson, which basically is the grown-up Robin, and then you've got Damian Wayne, which is like a tiny, you know, Batman. So it's the dynamics have completely shifted, and he was such an unlikable little character. There's a moment when Bruce Wayne comes back, and Dick and Damian are standing there in the Batcave in the suits, and Bruce Wayne is back, and he's like, Dick, you've done I'm paraphrasing, obviously, you've done a really great job while I was gone. I really appreciate it. I know you got your life to live and go back to, so I'm coming back on as Batman. And Dick's like, oh, okay, well, yeah. And there's a moment where Damian looks up at Dick, and he says, does this mean we don't get to be Batman and Robin anymore? And I was sold on the character at that point, because it was like, no matter how horrible he is,
he's still a boy.
He's a good kid.
Yeah.
You know, somewhere past, you know, the League of Shadows and, you know, his grandfather and all this just being terrible people.
There's a little bit of Bruce.
There's some Bruce Wayne in there that's, you know, the good kid.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know that as far as the Bat family, I've got one that I just don't like.
Not even Stephanie Brown.
No, I mean, she had her place. Yeah, she had her place.
Oh, Batman.
Well, in current continuity, he's. Yeah, I don't even know that one.
That's a strange drug trip.
Yeah, that's back in the old 50s, you know, when Batmite was actually a member of the thing. There's a lot of stuff from the Golden Age I really like. You know, I like Ace the Bat Hound. You know,
yes,
I like Superman's Fortress of Solitude with the giant golden key and
exactly
Crypto. But you know, I could, you know, Batmite he was there, but you know, I don't necessarily need to see him.
Fair enough.
I like Grant Morrison's explanation of Batman's history.
Well,
That makes more sense to me. You can accept all the different iterations of Batman. If you understand it, that when the first original Batman came out, he's young, he's hungry, and he's very, very angry.
Yes. Yeah.
And then as time goes on, he begins to work out his issues. Robin comes on, lightens the mood even more.
Yeah.
And then by the 1950s, it's like one too many hits of
oh my gosh,
just Joker Joker, Venom, and whatever, and you're starting to have like weird, strange trips, and certain things like even a gold bat suit or an underwater bat suit seem like good ideas.
So the multicolored bat suit's not your thing there, the rainbow suit?
Well, it is if you think about his exposure to all the different drugs and everything and various villains through
it's amazing. If you even just take the covers of the last Golden Age Batman issue and put it next to the first issue of the Silver Age.
It's dark.
It's not the same.
It is
it's
not at all
the same characters. It's not the same comic.
That was at least 3 years before the Batman television series.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was part of.
This was 64.
Yeah,
this was 64 when Denny O'Neil was brought on board to. They were going to get rid of Batman. There were plans to kill off Batman in the comics. They were going to. He was not marketable anymore. He wasn't making any money, and so the last issue of the Golden Age was the cover has Batman and Robin caged up in a space zoo because sci-fi was really big, and sci-fi had to play an element in almost every story, even with Batman and stuff. And so when they pulled the trigger on that and said, okay, O'Neil, make it work, and if you can make it work, great. If you can't, we're still going to kill it anyways, but at least we're going to give you a chance to prove yourself. Yeah, it's
B2B.
It is really cool to compare the two together, just to see the change of direction that one single issue made.
Right.
And that led to the of course the Batman's the series drew a lot from the goofiness of the Golden Age.
Yes, well, that to me, that is the mainstay of what that series is.
Yeah.
It's set 10 years. I mean, if you were looking at comic books then in the 60s, the Batman television series is really set about a decade before that.
Yeah, but it's because of the popularity of the TV show.
Yeah.
And the changes that they had made in the comic books just prior to that. The timing was very good, very beneficial to both.
Yeah.
Because it brought people back to Batman comics.
Yes.
To where they were buying them, and then they were like, and it was, a lot of kids, a lot of grown-ups were buying them, and so they're seeing stories that are like, oh, this has actually got some meat to it.
Right.
These are pretty good stories, so they could enjoy both.
I think it hit it out of the park once you got into the 70s.
When Neil Adams started doing the art.
Oh my goodness! When they started combining their Batman with, say, the Roger Moore Bond type stuff.
When he started being a detective again.
Yeah. Right. And started doing the worldwide adventurer stuff, and Ra's al Ghul was introduced to the village.
Yeah.
And you just had these incredible story arcs. Kids, you need to go out and get this.
Mm-hmm.
And all this stuff is out there for you to see in various collections.
Yeah.
But this stuff, the early 1970s stuff or at least the next 5 years, from 70 to 75.
They brought the Joker back. The Joker hadn't been in comics for years and years, and you can't even imagine that he wasn't part of the comics, but he was a throwaway character that hadn't been around for years, and they brought him back in, and they made him the villain he is today. He was it's the characters that they put back, they Robin grew up a little bit, and Dick Grayson kind of started getting an attitude. He's like, I'm getting kind of sick of being bossed around because I don't like all of your ideas and the way you handle things. And so there was just a lot of depth that started getting built, and that's where it kind of started the foundation of that set the foundation for Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, which started the avalanche of serious Batman stories.
I love it. I like having the Batcave and Wayne living downtown.
In the 70s,
because that's the living
in the penthouse
on
downtown.
top of Wayne Tower, and it was just that entire thing.
There was a lot more Bruce Wayne back then.
Oh yes,
a lot more Bruce Wayne, and I mean there was a lot of Batman, but there was a lot more Bruce Wayne than even recently.
Yeah.
Well, talking about that, so who would you say your favorite writer and artist are for Batman?
Oh man,
that's a pretty intense.
I'm going to go say my favorite artist would be Dick Sprang.
Yeah.
From the 40s and 50s artist. He's most renowned for his work on Batman. He did a lot of comic work though.
Yes, and he was one of the main people that contributed to the Batman series.
Yes, he was, and he did all of the art. Bob Kane had a great racket with getting his name on everything, whereas he had people ghosting the writing and the art duties for him. But Dick Sprang did almost entirely all of the newspaper strips, for one thing, and then he did a lot of the comics and a lot of the comic covers. So I can't say that he's not like Leonardo da Vinci or anything, or Michelangelo, but as far as just kind of what you remember of Batman, it's kind of like, the Silver Age, like you think of Silver Age Superman and you see Kurt Swan's art.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Dick Sprang is my Kurt Swan, as far as Superman. As far as a favorite writer,
Good luck with that one.
I would say it's kind of a toss-up, but I like a lot of what Morrison did. But then I liked a lot of what Denny O'Neil did.
Yeah, right.
So I would say probably Denny O'Neil would be my favorite writer.
Yeah. And I've not read the Morrison run on Batman. I'm more of a Marvel guy, but I've read a lot of the Denny O'Neil stuff. My father collected. He was more of a DC guy. So I've read a lot of that and enjoyed a lot of that. The only thing I really have read a lot of from Morrison was I read The Final Crisis, and I'm like going, this makes absolutely no sense in the world. I'm not going with this guy. This guy's not my kind of writer.
Morrison, I liked him. He caught me as a writer when he did his run on Animal Man.
Yeah, I've heard great things
because that if I had a character outside of Batman that I like the best out of DC Comics, it would be Animal Man. Which is such a third string character,
right.
Even today, even after it's a successful series.
Can't you see that as a character that, we'll be talking about this in a little bit, but can you see that as a character that someone like a Brian Michael Bendis could do a lot with? I
think he's got tremendous potential. If you're not familiar with the character, he's hooked into the morphogenic field, or the red, to where he can take on the powers, not necessarily attributes, but the powers and abilities of basically any animal in the animal kingdom. Originally, he had to be within a certain area of the animal to be able to borrow their powers, but he's been revamped, and in the 52, the 52-week series, they upgunned his powers a little bit, where he basically could even draw off of like creatures from other worlds and stuff if he could think, if he could look into them. So he can borrow these powers, so he does like, there's a great scene in his like original Grant Morrison run where he's fighting this guy, and he borrows the reaction speeds of a fly. And so he's just like ridiculously agile and fast. And he can borrow the strength of a gorilla, or the there's a great little scene where him and his wife are in the desert and they're testing his powers early in the series, and she's saying like, there's no animals around here, how are you running so fast? He says, I'm borrowing the powers of an ant. And she says, an ant? He says, have you ever seen an ant move? And it's like, it's really cleverly written. So he's a working class guy. He works as a stuntman. He has 2 kids, has a combative older boy, and then a sweet, little girl. And his wife she's always worried about, how are we going to pay the bills? You need to be home more. it is so nuclear family. Yeah,
grounded in
reality.
And family dynamic reality.
Yeah.
And then you have a superhero on top of that.
So all of that together it's very appealing because it's so real feeling. And it is so different than your typical superhero stuff that it's this really neat bridge. I just enjoyed the heck out of it.
Should be a television series.
That'd be cool. That's
they had Mammal. So
Mammal was dreadful.
And Vixen.
Vixen.
Well, Vixen gets a lot more press than Animal Man.
She's better looking.
She is better looking.
But it's just like, gosh, just one cartoon. Could we just have just the one serious cartoon, or TV appearance, or just could you throw me a bone here, because you're taking my second favorite character and you're just like
flushing him down
the toilet. But here's Vixen and she's hot, and it's like, well, yeah, but Buddy's cool.
So his little guest appearances on Batman Brave and the Bold weren't.
Well, he didn't have a Brave and the Bold.
I thought he was on Brave and the Bold.
No. They did the DC animated shorts that were.
They had the shorts, and they had like 3 different shorts where Weird Al voiced him. Those were hysterical because they were, you know, I can enjoy a good parody.
Right,
you know?
right.
So, and just the fact is like, well, yeah, at least he's on screen.
That's true.
Those out too, because those are online.
They're funny. Oh, they're funny.
Along with the Doom Patrol animated shorts, which are phenomenal.
Also, amazingly cool superhero group. Doom Patrol precedes X-Men.
By a few years.
By a few years, and you look at Doom Patrol, the original incarnation, and you look at the original incarnation of X-Men, and you go like, wonder where that idea came from.
Yeah. A little bit borrowing there.
Professor Xavier didn't quite mess up all the people like in Doom Patrol.
Oh yeah. No.
But you've got that aspect.
Yeah.
He's actually a nice guy until he becomes a jerk later.
Yeah. Well, until the 90s when he turns into a supervillain.
When Kitty Pryde says, you know, Professor X is a jerk.
Yeah, yeah.
So yes.
Yeah, he's no Niles Calder. I'll admit that he's not quite the manipulative.
Well, did he like cause all?
He basically manipulated all of them into what they became. Yeah.
Right, and then
glass.
Yeah. Very unbreakable. Yeah.
Next question.
All right, the next question. So what? Well, along with it, what's your favorite and least favorite Batman storylines you've seen?
Well, you really can't go better than Death in the Family or Dark Knight Returns for good, solid Batman stories. You know, the Jason Todd,
right.
Death of Jason Todd Batman story is really good. I voted.
Did you vote to kill him?
No, I voted to keep him. I did vote to keep because I saw that there was the potential that he has now. Right. I saw the potential back then where it's like this could be an interesting character that wasn't like, golly gee whiz, Batman, let's go beat up some bad guys. Right. This is a combative guy that's got a lot of the anger issues that Bruce Wayne did. And I thought, how are you going to make this guy not turn into you? Right. Right. So I thought there was tremendous potential there. So I was one of the guys that voted to save him. And of course it was I was outvoted. I was 100 and some odd guys short on my side for keeping him, but things turned out what they did. So.
Well, I mean, ultimately about Jason Todd, I've always thought that Jason Todd really is. If you took the original version of Batman as he came out in 1939,
yes,
that pretty much
it really is
what Red Hood is.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah.
He's the original.
Throw the guy off the rooftop.
Yep.
Yeah. Right. No, absolutely.
He is the original Batman archetype. The way that Batman operated is the way the Red Hood is. And so that makes him indispensable, in my opinion, because it makes him the most like Batman in reality, but also the one that is in stark contrast to where the character is in his life now.
Probably the storyline of recent times that I like the least is the whole Batman Incorporated storyline.
Right.
I understand what they were doing. It's like, well, Batman's extended family is now branching out, and Bruce Wayne is officially funding Batman. And it just
wasn't that loosely based on a lot of the stuff they were doing in the 50s?
Oh yeah. And to me, that once again the problem of it made
Spanish Batman.
Well, yeah, like the English Batman and stuff.
Batman.
Yeah.
And it's like
it took the mystique away from Batman. And it's back where Batman's standing up there, with the mayor and Commissioner Gordon, and they're naming a wing of the new prison after him or something, and he's out there smiling and waving to people, and it kind of destroys some of the dark mystique that they went so far to build up.
But the darkness that Grant Morrison has within that character is still there. It even gets worse.
Yeah, but I think it was interesting, but I think it was the wrong direction to go with it.
Yeah.
I'm not the writer, so I think it could have been done the same ends.
Yeah.
But a different means to get to it.
Yeah.
So that in recent history, that's probably one of my least favorite storylines is the Batman Incorporated.
Mine probably goes back to early '90s with Nightfall.
I liked Nightfall.
Did you? Because I just didn't like Azrael. Did not like.
You weren't supposed to.
All right. Well, I realized
you weren't supposed to. It was the whole '90s Image comics thing where they were like, we need a Batman that's going to kick some butt and start taking some heads off of people and stuff. It's like, well, Batman doesn't do that. Oh, the real Batman would. It's like, fine, we'll give that to you.
Right.
And so we gave him Azrael, and then people were like losing their minds, like, that's not Batman. It's like, this is what we said 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's Batman is anointed by God.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, that takes it into a very weird, strange.
Well, but I thought that was cool because it just showed Bruce Wayne has a certain insanity in him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And Jean-Claude Valet has a certain religious insanity in him. And it's like when you let one control your actions more than this one controls your actions. You know, Bruce Wayne's all about vengeance and payback and making sure that nobody ever has to suffer like he did. And you've got this guy over here, this is a religious crusade to not only make sure this never happens to anyone again, but just to eliminate that process out of it entirely. Mm-hmm. So I think it was, I would respectfully disagree that I think that was a tremendous storyline because it gave the readers exactly what they asked for.
Right. Plus it was post-80s after The Dark Knight.
Right.
And after The Dark Knight Returns and after Watchmen, to allow DC to just go, okay, look, there have been some things said about the characters. So we're going to show you what allowing Batman to go too far would really be like within this universe.
Well,
versus,
I'm not saying that didn't happen. I'm just saying as far as, because I was at that time reading a little bit of Batman here and there, and I went, not for me. Yeah. Which is, I know what they're hoping to get.
Right.
Get you back to regular Batman, but that was.
Well, it's just basically like you got what you asked for. It was a bitter pill to swallow, and now you know that we were right.
To me, it's right up there with the Ben Reilly.
The Clone Saga.
The Clone Saga, but
I think they should have kept Ben Reilly as the real Spider-Man.
Oh wow!
Really?
Absolutely.
Wow.
I think if they wanted to really make a difference in the story arcs and the storytelling and really make a solid change in the history of Spider-Man, Ben Reilly should have been the real Spider-Man and Peter Parker should have been the clone. But that's me. I was all for Bruce Wayne never coming back as Batman.
So would you have been good with Commissioner Gordon?
No. I'm not talking about New 52 doesn't exist. That does not exist. There is a time where Batman stopped being published and they kind of started publishing him again. No, I'm talking about when Dick Grayson had taken it up. Dick Grayson and Damian.
Yeah.
I was good with having them as the new Batman and Robin, and Bruce Wayne kind of being the prototype old man Wayne from Batman Beyond.
More in line with the whole weird Batman who's controlling everything.
Yeah.
The puppet master Batman.
Right.
That one freaked me out.
The Kingdom Come Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, but I mean younger, but pulling the strings. Where he's on
the whole Brother Eye thing again.
Yeah, that's the one where he's like, he's online and he's started his own pro-Batman group, and he's also running the anti-Batman group, and he's running all these different. It's like, dude, when do you have time to sleep?
Exactly.
When do you have time to do anything?
He's paranoid.
Yeah.
Not sleeping. One final question for you.
Yeah.
All right. And with the DC cinematic universe, with the new stories coming out, what would you like to see storyline-wise from Batman?
More detective stuff, less monster fighting.
Which is what I think the Batman movie that's coming up.
I think it's if they follow through with it, like that was what was good with the Keaton movies is he was fighting the Joker, which I think Nicholson's take on the Joker was really good.
Me too.
I wasn't much a fan of the story of Batman Returns with the Penguin and Catwoman, but we were still having the street level Batman.
Right.
And then we started Batman Forever. We started getting over the top villains.
Right.
And they kind of lost their way, which too campy, too over the top.
Right.
Val Kilmer and
Chris O'Donnell.
Yeah, and then Clooney and O'Donnell and that Alicia Silverstone. No, nothing against Alicia Silverstone.
Right.
But
She was given a bad.
But damn.
Yeah. That was not good. That was just and
that's where the Nolan movies were successful.
Yes.
Is because they kept Batman street level, but they kept him to street level. There's a balance. There's a balance to be done with that. So I would like more. I like superheroes, and I like the superheroes guest starring and working with one another. But I would like to get back to seeing a dark noir crime solving Batman, where maybe the bad guy is a metahuman of a certain level of something like this. So it's not like, well, I'm just going to go beat up, Falcone and his goons, and then we're going to call it a day, where it's like, it's Falcone and his goons, but they're being played by this guy, and he's actually running the operation, and he's a force to be reckoned with, and this is going to be an actual challenge, and it's going to take that problem solving and the martial arts and the gadgets and the tactics to take this guy down. But I want to see some street level stuff. I want to see him, beat up a goon. I want to see him collecting evidence and questioning guys.
Clayface would be perfect.
Yeah,
because it has a certain level of paranoia. If you film it as a noir piece, street level piece, by having Clayface and adding him into the whole mix, it gives you sort of like an original Ridley Scott's Alien,
right? Because John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah.
I was like, who is the bad guy?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. No, that's excellent. That's an excellent idea. You should pitch that. I'd go see it. And I want to see Scarface and the ventriloquist in a movie.
Ooh.
Even if they're like a secondary character, like towards the first of the piece, where he's like finishing up, the job. I have a soft spot for those guys.
I wouldn't mind seeing them kind of like be sort of like the prototype to what eventually would be the Black Mask.
Yeah.
Having been a former goon who had worked for those guys and didn't like the way they operated.
Yeah.
Could you see him showing up in the Suicide Squad?
Oh, yeah.
See, that would be kind of an interesting.
It would be really interesting. I don't know. I'm not sure how that would work in Suicide Squad, but I'm foreseeing him show up anywhere, because
Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey could pull that off.
I like the
character. He doesn't pull in the Riddler.
No.
Jim Carrey's kind of like Robin Williams, where it's like, if you just kind of get him a script and just say, just go be Jim Carrey. Right. Or just go be Robin Williams.
Right.
You may get more than you bargained for, but both of those guys, Jim Carrey can, if you tell him to stick to a script and you let him have a little bit of fun with it and then cut out what doesn't work for the movie, I think so.
That's cool. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Michael, for
joining
us.
It was fun. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So, you got time to hang out for
a little bit.
Headlines, and we've got a game potentially coming up if we end up having time. So
we're going to start off with the big announcement about Rian Johnson, and basically it's looking like Lucasfilm's going to allow him to create his own Star Wars trilogy.
But is it really Lucasfilms at this point, or is it Disney? Because since Disney kind of owns ultimately it's Disney.
It's ultimately Disney probably gave the go-ahead to do that. And I think Disney wants to launch all kinds of things. They really do want the Star Wars television series. They want all of that.
Why would you not? Because you're printing money every time you put a movie out.
My gosh.
Yeah, and when you can make, when you can take a property like Star Wars and with your first film under your banner and make basically $2 billion.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's printing money.
Well, and with Rian Johnson being given that, pretty much talks about what they're seeing with Last Jedi.
Yeah, because he did a phenomenal job.
Right, because you're not going to give it to the guy that you think really stunk it up. So I'm anticipating that means this movie's going to be just out of the park. People are hoping it's going to be the Empire Strikes Back of the series. So,
that'd be so great.
I know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's just honestly, unless you just go out of your way to ruin it, I don't see how Star Wars cannot make money at this point.
Right.
Because they sort of have to stick with just expanding what they've already built on, because you really can't change it up so much where you're just like rebooting it. You've always got to draw past, your roots, because you remember when we went out and saw, Star Wars, not New Hope, Star Wars, for the first time.
Yes.
I mean, guys, you weren't there. They honestly, they captured lightning in a bottle.
Yes.
This was the most amazing thing, and I know that with the more recent movies, they've tried to market it as like, hey guys, this is your chance to experience Star Wars. I'm not trying to disappoint you, but no.
And then you missed the boat again with '89 Batman. That was also magical.
Yeah. But I mean, I like to say the phrase. It was lightning in a bottle. I mean, it was just everything had to come together.
Yeah.
Just the right. I mean, just for that movie to be made. George Lucas wanted to make Flash Gordon, and the studio said no. We don't want to mess with Flash Gordon, and so he had to come up with his own stuff and push for his own stuff and get his foot in the door and say, like, I'll do it for this much money, but I want this part of a take of the merchandise. And they're like, well, we don't care. Merchandising, big deal. What are you going to do, sell a lunchbox? Well, that's what he built his empire on.
Well, that's a trillion lunchboxes.
Yeah.
Well, that's where you think Planet of the Apes.
Yes.
Planet of the Apes.
That's the merchandising bulldozer of the time.
Yeah. That collapsing when it did helped George Lucas basically make money.
Yeah.
Because no studio wanted to do that again after everything went south with Planet of the Apes.
And hindsight, can you imagine the hindsight of companies that don't even exist anymore? Mego.
Yeah.
Which, if you guys collect toys or anything, Mego's the little 8-inch,
action
World of the Superheroes, and the Star Trek line and stuff. 20th Century Fox goes to Mego and they say, listen, you're doing the Planet of the Apes stuff, you're doing Star Trek, you're doing Tarzan and the Marvel and DC license combined.
Right. Yes.
And they go and they say, like, we got this film coming out, right? It's Star Wars. It's kind of like Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon type of stuff. And, we've got these really cool characters. We've got these aliens. We've got this guy, and he's the hero, and this is the princess, and here's kind of the roguish guy. And Mego goes like, nah, we're going to take a pass on that. And so they go to this little company, Kenner.
Right.
It's like, would you guys be interested in that? And they're like, we'll give it a shot. The end.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Where's Mego now?
Dustbin of history.
Yeah.
Dustbin of history.
Fond memories is where Mego is. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, unless Disney were to, like, poison the well on purpose.
Right.
Well, that's where we'll talk about the whole Fox Disney thing.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, that's.
All I can say is I was 7 when Star Wars came out, and that changed my entire perception. I was into comic books at that point, but that really launched me into uber geekdom then.
Yeah.
That got me into sci-fi. I was a little bit in anyway. $6 Million Man, and some other stuff.
Man.
So there was some stuff that I enjoyed, and it was before Star Trek was showing reruns in my area, so I really hadn't been exposed to Star Trek. So, but Star Wars, I was like, I went and saw it at the drive-in movie theater.
Yeah.
And so it's
I saw
big old ships coming across. I just know that right there is one of those moments that point to my life, and this treads my path to geekdom right here. This was one of those calling times. So, yep.
Yeah, that's an unbelievable time.
Drive-ins for you. I saw mine in the theater.
I saw it in both places, but one of the showings was at a drive-in in the back of a pickup.
We didn't really have any options in where I grew up. It was you drove 30 minutes over to 2 towns over to go watch at the drive-in.
Yes,
and that meant you had to stay awake because I was 7, staying awake, past the time the sun sets, unless it was the movie that's going to grab me. But I was mesmerized.
I remember Star Wars at the drive-in theater. I could not tell you what the other feature was.
We didn't have that.
It didn't matter.
Right. So.
It could have been Raquel Welch nude, and I wouldn't have remembered it because, okay, I'm lying. But let's dial it back. Like it could have been something equally, almost as cool, but I would not have remembered it.
Animated feature about paint drying.
Yeah. I don't remember. I remember Star Wars was cool though.
All right.
Anyway, to catch up with the rest of what we're talking about with the headlines, after weeks of just all of the red carpet premieres, Justice League now is on the way.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's by now I think everyone has read about some of the online reactions
of it, yeah.
You know, no real reviews released, but at least online reactions. And at best, it seems to be official. The film is good because nobody hates it.
No,
nobody has written that they hated the film. But
the worst I've seen is like, it was okay.
Yeah, that's
the worst I've seen.
Right.
And so
if it stays there, you're doing all right.
I think it will. I think fans are going to love it. I think, again, there's a lot of people that like Joss's humor and character interactions, and so that combined with Zack Snyder's, visuals, I think they've got themselves a winner. Now, is this film gonna, do like 150 million opening? I'm thinking it'll be closer to like 110.
Really? You think it's gonna go 110?
110.
You don't think it's gonna go 150, 160?
I think there's a lot of debris to dig through from how lambasted the Batman versus Superman was. That it's there's a lot of people that are going to go into it or not see it at first because that's what they're anticipating.
And I think the only reason why it's going to even make over 100 for that is mainly because of all the people that became fans because of Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Yes.
And then of those, you got to divide it between people who are just there because they want to see something else of Wonder Woman, and all those people that just happen to be fans of Jason Momoa or even anyone else in the film that they really have come to like.
Right.
So Jason is out there just killing it.
Oh my gosh.
And the thing that I've heard is that the people that really like the movie say the entire cast works.
That's good.
It's great cast chemistry. There was one person that said they didn't enjoy the script, but they thought the cast was phenomenal. And that's what really for them was the best part about it.
Well, it's not having seen the movie or even talked to anybody that has seen the movie. It's from previews looks to be kind of your formulaic, the bad guy's coming, we got to get these dissimilar people together, join together, get past any kind of differences they might have, put it all aside, fight the bad guy, and triumph at the end of the day. So, I mean, it's not Macbeth.
Yeah.
Right.
But, it's a superhero movie.
But maybe Avengers.
Yeah.
Maybe Avengers.
Yes. Well, I mean, you take Avengers, and that's pretty much what it is.
Exactly. That's exactly.
And I'm sure Josh got an opportunity to at least poke fun at his movie. I think that's where Commissioner Gordon's like, well, you got any more and better? I'm just like, not enough.
Yeah.
It's just, which was one of the minor complaints about the Avengers. But but ultimately, no, we are very close. We are now less than 4 days away.
Thursday midnight, I guess.
Yeah.
For the U.S. release. Yeah.
It's coming.
So, are you guys going Friday? Because I'm planning on trying to go Friday. I need to see Thor before I see that because being out of town, I still haven't seen Thor.
Oh, you will enjoy it.
Yeah.
Now, right now, Jason Momoa is making the rounds. He's become the lead guy for hitting all of the talk shows and everything else leading up to Justice League, mainly because
he's the Stephen Amell of the movie universe.
And people seem to really like him. He is just one of these guys. It is hard not to like that guy. It is just hard not to like him.
Yeah.
But
he just enjoys.
He enjoys it all.
Much.
He enjoys it.
He just enjoys it.
And that comes across, and that's what makes me anticipate his film Aquaman that just wrapped about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So his movie should be out next December. And again, I'm one of those people that thinks I don't think Warner Brothers is going to want to put out Aquaman in December. I think they're going to try to dial that back a bit.
I agree with that.
They may try for maybe fall.
I was going to say they're going to go for a late summer, early fall release.
Yeah.
Would be my guess.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
Especially if Justice League hits the way that you're.
Oh yeah.
Well, Justice League hits and makes $800 to $1 billion. You got to think that they're going to say, well, yeah, let's dial it up here.
You have two ways of looking at it. You can either do the same amount of business that Batman v Superman did, which it'd still be great.
It wasn't bad money.
You're still making good money, right?
You know, that's what, $8.75?
Yeah.
So, you know, or you can go bigger than that, or you can go way lower than that, which at this point is what, Cars 3?
Yeah.
But,
you know, this is the closest we have gotten to a Justice League movie since Adam and Bert were on that terrible Legends of the Superheroes.
Yes. I remember watching that. I remember watching that.
Star Wars fans don't want to think about the Christmas special. Batman fans don't want to think about the Legends of the...
Talking about Christmas special, that's also going to be Friday, along with Punisher opening and Justice League is Life Day for Star Wars. Thank you, Star Wars fans. Happy Life Day.
Oh, Lord.
Well, just so that we could help with everything, Saturday, which will be the 18th, is Justice League Day, according to DC Comics. So many comics stores that are participating will have all kinds of Justice League related material.
That's cool.
Anything you can want will be available at your local favorite comic book place, or just go to dccomics.com.
I want a snapper car. Can I get a snapper car?
As long as it's not the CW Supergirl version, it's good.
Oh, man. Show.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I want to like it so bad.
There's parts of it that I like.
But anyway, with Aquaman
That's
on
why
the
I
way,
recorded. Thank God for fast forwards.
with the new Aquaman film having wrapped, Jason Momoa out there doing stuff. Just remember now, this new film will be directed by James Wan and will be starring Amber Heard, who will be Mirror, Willem Dafoe, Patrick Wilson, Nicole Kidman, and Mr. Dolph Lundgren.
Oh,
That's a cast.
So who's William Dafoe playing? What character is he playing?
Oh, Vocal.
Yep.
Who will, I think,
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
In fact, he's also making a cameo appearance in Justice League.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
but also then we have the fact that fans have been celebrating the fact that they've already started casting for the new Shazam movie.
Yes.
So that information came out on the 27th of October, and so everybody learned that Zachary Levi, formerly of Chuck, Thor: The Dark World, and of course Thor: Ragnarok, and also the co-creator of Nerd Machine, one of my favorite organizations, had been cast as Captain Marvel, Shazam himself. So,
I was just going to ask, you said the Shazam movie, and I was wondering, is Billy Batson or Captain Marvel going to make an appearance towards the end of the Shazam movie, since I guess this is the Wizard's origin story, right? Oh, damn you, Marvel Comics!
But they've had the agreement for a long time that they can use Captain Marvel.
Just not in the title. Yeah,
right, just not in the title. So I don't. Are you calling him Captain Marvel in this movie? And if you call him Shazam, how do you refer to yourself? Because then you refer to yourself and you strike the lightning. And
but in the retcon, it's he can say the name as long as he's not using it as the transformation. Which
but that's never been.
I know. I don't want to get a headache right now.
Yeah, just don't think about it.
I'm a Marvel fan, but I don't like that. I just call him Captain Marvel. For God's sakes.
I think that won't happen. But
just call him the Big Red Cheese then. Something.
Anyway, Warner's announced that actor Asher Angel has been cast as Billy Batson.
It looks great.
Yeah, this kid, this looks like it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
But they are now negotiating with actor Mark Strong. Now, it is unknown what part he's playing, but many fans are thinking he's going to play Dr. Sivana. And to me, it's just like, so basically you're going to allow Mark Strong to be himself with a pair of glasses.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Anytime you can play yourself. Makes it easy. So you stay in character.
You stay in character.
I mean, that's what Tony Stark is, right? Because
if you don't know, Dr. Sivana is basically like old school Lex Luthor.
Well,
only more mad scientist.
Actually, the other way around, because Dr. Sivana was the original,
right?
From when the comic started.
Yes.
And I think that was prior to Lex Luthor being in Super. That was part of the lawsuit between the two. You know,
But I mean, if you just want to make the comparison, you know,
right,
the evil bald villain. You know, Lex Luthor is, you know, currently more of the corporate, you know, Dr. Sivana is a mad scientist.
Yes.
Right.
And I think his origin now is he was the one that actually found Black Adam. And I think that's the story that they're telling in this movie.
Okay.
Well, and Black Adam will not be in this movie, is what.
I think he'll make a cameo.
Yeah, I think he'll be kind of like you know, Sinestro. We sort of got the glimpse of bad Sinestro at the end of Green Lantern, which God, that could have been
the animated cartoon, because I don't remember a live action movie.
That movie, once again, could have been a good movie. I don't want to get off subject, but I don't think Ryan Reynolds did a bad job with the character he was handed.
The non-Earth stuff, yeah.
I think he would have made a great Guy Gardner.
Well, that being said, let's move along off that. Another misstep.
But and then for the third biggest piece of Warner Brothers big news, then the surprise announcement just 2 days ago that Brian Michael Bendis will be leaving Marvel and joining DC Comics in an exclusive agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So right now you have certain fans at Marvel that are celebrating, certain fans at Marvel that are a little unhappy. Personally, I think of those DC fans out there, you're about to get somebody who you know is going to really make a difference and who operates on the same level as Jeff Johns. You know, in fact, I think Jeff Johns and he, in my personal opinion, might try to team up on something, which could be just world-shattering.
Mm-hmm. Well, and being a Marvel fan, Bendis has done some great things. Alias and his work on New Avengers. I mean, there's been some really good stuff. He's also had some really stinker of stuff, especially as of late. And anytime he's doing it, and Marvel suffers from an issue with miniseries and these big summer crossovers where they tell a really cool story for about 5 issues and then cuts it out. And Bendis has been at the top of the list of doing that. So, you know, as long as you don't have him writing your summer crossover, you're probably going to be fine. Let him have a character he can play with, and that really is going to be the key.
So you're saying he's more of a sprinter and not a marathon runner?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, most definitely. Because you're like, okay, so we hit issue 5, and then where we're going with this? Oh, a bunch of nowhere. That absolutely matters nothing. Great. So, but he's not the only one at Marvel that suffered that way. I mean, Marvel is just in the last 10 years, their crossovers have just been horrible endings. And like, what's this really mean? It means nothing, pretty much. Okay, great. I'll stop reading you. Thank you.
Well, look. I have a feeling, you know, Marvel in making this move will finally get around to making some changes and doing things a little bit differently that might appease a lot of fans who've not been happy about things like, you know, certain changes with characters being changed completely in personality, form, sex, whatever, and get back to the more traditional storytelling that they seem to really like.
Well, and I think Legacy's doing that for Marvel. I mean, that really is kind of, I think Marvel went and saw what DC did and went, yes, we hate to just steal from you, but I think that's what we need also. We need to go back to the core of our characters and find who they really are. And I think that's really what's happening. Not that some of these other new characters aren't really cool.
Yeah.
They just, I mean, you can make a really cool female Thor character without making her Thor.
Yeah.
You can make a really cool, Falcon is a great character, and you could use him, you could even have him keep the shield and tell some really cool stories and still have him as Falcon.
And let's remember that in the Thor comics, you know, from years ago anyways, you know, there was a period of time where Thor was the Frog of Thunder.
That's true. Yeah. You're right.
We had Thunderstrike.
You're right.
We had Beta Ray Bill. We've had a lot of people have a long run on Thor and not be Thor.
That's true. And Beta Ray Bill was a really cool character.
Beta Ray Bill was,
Thunderstrike.
Yeah. No, I'm not lauding over how wonderful Thunderstrike was. Just making the observation
I agree. But you have history of Captain America handing down a shield to other people during different time periods, and becoming other characters, the Nomads, some other characters. But you always go back because people identify Steve Rogers with Captain America. People identify Peter Parker with Spider-Man. I mean, those are your...
Well, you have, as comics go, you can introduce a new character, and, if you end up changing them down the line or something, there are certain characters that are so iconic.
Yes.
And so ingrained into American culture and just the history of comics that it's okay to bring on somebody else and be Batman for a while, or to have Superman dead and have people fill in for him or whatever. But ultimately, you have to come back to that. There are a couple of exceptions that I think were good because of their storytelling value that they eventually went back on, which I think was terrible mistakes. Bringing Barry Allen back as the Flash should have never happened. Now, I understand that it led to more storylines and stuff, but he had such a wonderful finality, such a wonderful death. Now, in Crisis, they also got rid of Wonder Woman and they got rid of Supergirl.
Right.
And they ended up bringing them back, but at the time, and this isn't, taking into account, the George Perez run or the current Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was she was a third stringer character. She was the secretary to the Justice Society. I mean, she was the girl in the Star Spangled Tights that fought alongside Superman and pals. So having her gone wasn't a huge issue. And having Supergirl gone really was just girl Superman, so it wasn't that a big issue. But killed off the Flash, it was a huge deal. And in that same vein, when Hal Jordan had went nuts when Mongol blew up Coast City, and he went to the Guardians, you need to fix this, and they said, like, you take a hike, we're not helping you, that's not our problem. And he went kind of crazy,
right?
And then showed up to help the Earth, defend itself against the Sun Eater, and sacrificed his life and gave the great, Green Lantern oath as he's taking out the Sun Eater at the cost of his own life.
Right.
Great death, and they brought him back as the Spectre, and then it was just, I like Hal Jordan. I'm glad he's back as Green Lantern, but that was a death I could have accepted,
right,
and been happy with. Barry Allen should have never come back. But there are certain characters you just can't get rid of.
Right.
Yeah. You can't recast them.
Right. That's true.
Just to me, it's just you got to do what you want to with the storylines, but it's got to come back. Clark Kent's always got to be Superman. And Tony Stark's always got to be Iron Man.
Bruce Wayne technically has always got to be Batman.
Yeah,
he's got nothing else to do. I mean, he's not good for real.
Well, because
he is kind of a billionaire. He could.
Well, but of course, it's more favorited now, and it's more generally accepted now than when me and my friends were talking about it several years ago. That Bruce Wayne is the mask that Batman wears.
Right. Most definitely.
Superman's a little bit of the same way, but Superman tries to embrace his humanity. Peter Parker puts on a suit so he can be Spider-Man. Right. He has the powers, but he's Peter Parker in the Spider-Man suit.
Right. And he plays that role. He gets to be that person he wants to be in the
and Superman is Clark Kent fighting the good fight.
Right. That's exactly right.
Batman has to go out to a charity function, so he has to take the suit off.
Right.
And that's,
Yeah, but he's still Batman. That's the thing.
That's the thing. That's the disguise. It's like when Peter Parker takes off the Spider-Man suit, he's still Spider-Man. But at his core, he's Peter Parker.
Right. He's Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man is the role he gets to play.
Yes.
Right. There is no Bruce, only Batman.
Yeah.
That's it.
I couldn't agree more. So.
Well, now here we are with also not only anticipating Justice League, but anticipating, Netflix releasing The Punisher.
The Punisher.
Which will be happening on the 17th, the same day.
Yes, it is.
So, you can go watch Justice League, come back home, and watch the entire run of The Punisher, or you can watch The Punisher, then go see Justice League and come back for more Punisher. Whichever way you decide to spin it.
You don't have to watch either one of them, but,
but it's
they're there.
Cool.
And when we were kids, we didn't have options.
Yeah.
Bro, you're right. We had to watch the really bad Spider-Man television show.
Yeah.
Or Captain America.
Or Captain America with the plastic shield.
Or Denise Crosby as Wonder Woman.
Man, I like Denise Crosby, but yeah. The thing about that one is it was Jane Kennedy was in that. That was my thing. I love Jane Kennedy. But I mean, you know, and Red Brown, you cool, man. You cool, but Captain America was not your thing.
No,
not your thing, man.
And we love you, Lou Ferrigno, but damn.
Anyway, but again, it's this weekend we've got the Punisher coming. And we can also celebrate the fact that Thor Ragnarok is kicking butt and taking names.
It is best reviewed Thor movie of the three, and one of the best reviewed Marvel movies.
I think it's 8.2 on IMDb.
It is.
Yeah.
Why don't you get the rest of that? It's
8.2 on IMDb, 93% fresh with the critics on Rotten Tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
Only 90% fresh with the fans, which is interesting. Switch up there.
Yeah.
And 94% of fans on Google liked it. So it's
I've heard
doing well.
I've heard it's a very fun movie.
That's what I've heard. I've not seen it yet, and only because I was gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah. I'm telling you that the movie is an experience. And again, I know you hate bringing it up and talking about it, but the reason why I do that is because for Taika Waititi, this is an opportunity to just shake off the effects of the Green Lantern movie. Just shake it right off. Just like, okay, you can get away from this because he also was in that movie.
Right.
And it was just like, yeah, he needed to get past that. Mm-hmm. He needed to get way past that. And I think he's accomplished that. It's a fun movie to go watch. You can bring the family. You can have a lot of fun. I found it to be a good, solid film. That's my official take on Thor Ragnarok. It is good. It is solid. The story is probably the best story of all the Thor movies and is one of my top 5 best MCU stories. But the film in and of itself is good. That was my official rating. It is good. I agree, though, with Idris Elba's concerns that he brought up, and I can see why he was concerned, and I have to say I agree with him. I don't think this is the best use of his talents, and I can see why he would not be motivated to want to sign up to do another movie if they continue to go down that road with his character.
Well, I think he had trepidation about doing this movie from the second Thor. He was not pleased with the direction it took.
Yeah.
And had to have a certain amount of convincing to do.
And I agree with him. Having seen the movie, I have to officially say I agree with him. So that's my take on Thor Ragnarok. But look, that still doesn't take away from how cool this movie is.
Well, it's made over $500 million worldwide already.
Mm-hmm.
And
it deserves it.
Yeah.
So. Deserves it. But let's get to today's big geek out for a moment. And it's basically where we can speculate on a story all over the place because this story provides you with all sorts of room to do that. It was reported by CNBC, specifically by David Faber of CNBC, that Disney had been in negotiations to purchase the entertainment arm of Fox. Mm-hmm. Not their news network, not their sports stuff, but basically their entire entertainment library and holdings. Mm-hmm. Fans have been kind of divided outside of a lot of us geeks that, are looking at it going, yes, X-Men back in the control.
Yeah, we just want the X-Men and the FF back home.
Now the FF might not be so cool. Might not be so simple. That's a different thing, slightly. But X-Men, definitely. Yeah. My thing is, I don't have to hope. I just believe that the deal has already been done, even though they're saying that negotiations have stopped, mainly because of how the deal was written originally for Fox to have control of X-Men films, but not TV shows, not merchandising, not any of that stuff. Now we're looking at least, 4 different X-Men related television series?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they could not have done that without Marvel, without Disney.
Right.
And so my thing is, I think Disney will eventually work that deal out if they haven't already and get control of all that. Mainly because it'll be great to have the X-Men back with Marvel and under the control of both Marvel Television and Marvel Studios.
Mm-hmm.
But also to allow Lucasfilm to regain control of 77 Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, that's
a big deal.
That is a very well, but then you think of all the stuff that Fox owns.
Right.
Being under the control of the mouse.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's going to help their streaming service that they're getting ready to put out. I mean, that really has to be. They're looking at these other things, I'm sure, and going, "This would be really helpful. People are going to love this. This is going to be, this is going to help us out." But right there, knowing that you're putting out your own streaming service to compete with Netflix, and now you're saying, "Oh, by the way, we're going to add everything Fox has ever done to our network service to be able to stream,"
like the Alien franchise.
Like the
Think of what having that franchise in the Disney family, so that even people that have worked on the Marvel films, on the Pixar films, and especially the Lucasfilm people, could get all their hands on the Alien franchises of potential movies. Oh my goodness, that is
now
huge.
I know some of the concern is that if Disney kind of has the umbrella over Fox.
Yeah.
And Disney being the entity that it is, they're happy, they're fun, they like to make fun movies and stuff like that. Where does that leave things such as Blade or Deadpool, which was the highest rated, highest money making R-rated movie ever? Where does that?
Well, okay, I'll ask you. If you are a Disney fan, especially one that's our age, you remember films like Ruthless People?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's a Disney film.
But that was different guys.
Yeah, it was under Hollywood Pictures. Yeah. Disney's done it before. Okay. If they really want to,
I know that's a concern that
I get that concern.
Yeah.
But Disney can just go ahead and go, mysteriously, new division. They can put out the R-rated film.
Disney After Dark.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Or you can see Mickey Mouse have a chest burster. So.
Look.
I go for that. That'd be awesome.
Look, I'll tell you this much. They're not the only ones that are looking to make a sale. Okay? There are several other IPs out there, high-profile IPs, that if Disney can't close the deal on this, they can just go after those.
Right.
Among them, the Bond franchise.
Yes.
Which is available. Which, in my opinion, I would like to see Disney take, because then they would be able to provide all sorts of Bond-related stuff, even as part of what they offer in the parks.
Mm-hmm.
It would allow them to go after adults more.
Right.
Especially those adults, if you want to have a vacation without the kids,
Right.
could provide you the whole just Casino Royale.
Right.
The Bond experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Just.
But can we get sharks with freaking laser beams?
Well, that's a slightly different.
Oh, that's right.
Probably. But just think of it. It would allow Disney then to get into merchandising things that you couldn't do with all their other stuff. Just think of all the different companies that have had dealings with the Bond franchise. So then you're getting into things like tuxedos and expensive dresses that are replicas of what you've seen in films.
Right.
Bathing suits, watches.
Yeah, gadgets, yeah.
All kinds of but not just gadgets.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about all of the different watch companies worldwide that have done that stuff, you're talking replica watches that you can buy that may not be as expensive as the originals.
Right.
That would allow you to have that same kind of look and style. Be able to, there's a website called the Bond Lifestyle that they also are on Facebook. Check them out if you are a big Bond fan. You should already know this. But you can go through and find through the website links to every single company that has done business on every single Bond film to be able to acquire whatever you need. For instance, to say, like, if you enjoyed how Daniel Craig looked in Casino Royale, everything he wore in that movie,
buy the suit,
you can buy the suit, the shoes, but even the polo shirt that he wore, and the glasses and the shoes, depending on what scene you're talking about, all of it is on that website. Links to everything, watches, everything.
You know, they do the Harley Davidson like pickup trucks. Can you imagine the Bond edition car?
Oh, you see, Disney would just love that.
Yeah,
and they would make so much bank. And plus, it would allow you to do things like run a casino just off of what they have. Kids couldn't use it, but the adults could. To give you that Casino Royale experience. And I know I keep bringing that one up because that's probably one of my favorites. But I mean, you know, for any Bond film,
can I get gold paint for
maybe? But I'm sure your wife would have some reservations. It never really works out, you know. But no, that's one franchise that is available.
Yeah, that would be cool.
But also, you have another studio that is still in the mix. As far as I know, both the animation division of Steven Spielberg's film company,
Ambien?
No, not Amblin, but his other company, the joint one that he came up with.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh man, the name of that. The animation division for. Boy, I am totally useless. It's
all right.
Basically, it would allow Disney to own the rights to Shrek, which would be the biggest irony, and to pretty much own the rights to every single thing they have ever done. And to find Shrek under the Disney banner would be the ultimate sort of exclamation point to the ultimate joke. Yeah. You know, it shows God has a sense of humor. Considering if you remember what that first Shrek movie was, and why it was significant, you know, for everybody that made that film that used to be a Disney employee to allow them to take a jab at the big company.
Right.
Almost every single frame of that film was one big walking FU to the mouse. So the mouse can ultimately years later just come back and say, I bought it.
I own that. I own that too.
I own it. It's mine. Thank you. So that's one company, but also Sony Pictures is also a company that seems to be on the market. And I'll tell you, you know, for Disney to get their hands on Sony,
right
now, you're not only getting Spider-Man back
officially,
but you know, you get everything that they have, and which includes the Ghostbusters franchise and various other things. So I mean, you know, Disney's got money. I mean, with what they've made just by owning Marvel, with just the Marvel films, you're talking at least just over a $10 billion is how much they've made in 9 years, over $10 billion.
Well, hugely successful, but is there a point where you say
it's too much?
You got enough stuff. You know, obviously everybody wants to make money, and you know, if your studio is worth this much, but they're willing to pay you that much for it, and you're like, well,
that's the thing. You know, everybody has
when does it become too much?
You know, it used to be that when you buy companies, what would normally happen is that you bought it, you took all the valuable stuff, and you sold or got rid of the rest. And I think eventually Disney would get back to doing that. Instead of just keeping something whole, they would just like take out all the pieces that they wanted and then just get rid of the rest. You know, I think that in the case of Sony, Disney, you know, would probably just keep all of the entertainment stuff and then just cut ties with anything else that didn't suit them.
Well, like their electronics division and stuff, they would.
No. This would not be the electronics division.
Okay,
this is the movie division of Sony.
So just
separated. It's separated from everything else. It's kind of weird, but that's the way they have it. So when Sony was going to be sold, this was not the electronics division. This is just their Hollywood film division. And so this is everything that they have. But yeah, it's just, to me, I don't really see Disney going that direction where they don't stop buying IP. Because we're in the IP age. We have been for almost 15 years.
No, I don't see them stopping either. There's ready to be made on it.
Yeah, they're not the only ones. Every Hollywood studio is in the IP business. And anyone that tells you they're not is lying. Everybody's in it for the IP. And IP standing for intellectual property. So if it's something that is recognizable, that can become a potential film and or television property. But ultimately what that translates into is you're definitely going to be interested. You'll definitely spend your money. And then they can actually sell you products based on that.
Right.
So everything actually has an IP number. You either have a high IP, really well known, like say Superman, or a low IP, like say the Pet Rock. But everything is definitely something that is potentially able to make someone money if they value it high enough.
And to tie into the Fantastic, if Disney would like to purchase us, just give us a call. We'll be glad to talk. We'll work for the mouse.
Yeah, we will work for the mouse.
Safety waiting for that call, right?
Operators are standing by.
Every single one. But no, it's just you can buy me out.
Well, I can't be bought, so I have integrity. I can't be bought. I can't, however, be rented. So
my wife will sell me, so officially on behalf of her.
Well, don't talk to my wife. She would sell me. Me, if I have any say in the matter, that's true. I can be leased and rented.
But no, it's just, I think ultimately, while there is that danger of hitting a saturation point, I think if we were dealing with the way studios were being run 15 to 20 years ago, yeah, there would be a saturation point. But when you have corporations involved, I don't actually see it. Not at least in the next 20 years. That's the reason why I think the success of comic book films is not something that will be coming to a recognizable end anytime soon. This is forever. I mean, comic books are the ultimate, just as an example, what they offer, their fans, their merchandising, all of it. Just look how much merchandising has exploded since Hollywood has been involved. When you go from, say, what Fox was doing in 2000, you look at the amount of film, comic book related merchandising, from t-shirts, underwear, socks, now dinner jackets, with some of the stuff that they've released with some of the Star Wars related dinner jackets, some of the DC characters related, and of course the Marvel related dinner jackets. Dinner jackets.
You gotta have a Tony Stark dinner jacket.
Oh, jeez. Cologne, both baseball caps and other types of caps, knit caps, wool caps. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I tried the Blobs cologne. That really is not the same.
That kind of leaves everything.
That's not it.
Yeah.
So
I would go with the Thanos one.
Yes.
It'll take you and just, it allows you to command the room. You might smell a bit, but you will command the room, or at least their attention.
Exactly.
But no, ultimately, as we wrap this up, ultimately Disney is in the driver's seat. They can definitely do whatever they want. They have the cash. And again, this also shows you how studios like Fox and even Sony to a certain extent, you know, while they are able to be successful, this is a whole different game that Disney is playing, and they are playing it very well. They are playing to win. I don't think they're planning on stopping anytime soon, and whatever they do decide to sell will be stuff that's pretty much just scraps to them in the first place. And so if you're a studio picking up Disney scraps, you know, I mean, that's technically what Disney ultimately ended up doing when Fox decided not to buy Marvel. They could have bought Marvel. They decided not to.
Nope. They're lost there.
Big time. Big time. And sure, Hugh Jackman, dude, I am so sorry.
Yeah.
If this goes through, you were just a year off, man. That's gotta be bad.
And they're gonna drive.
He might come back.
They're gonna drive a dump truck full of money up to his house.
Why?
And
No, seriously.
Put the claws back on. We want you in Avengers. Yes, I'll be right there.
I think he wants to.
No, he would like to. Yeah.
But I don't think Kevin Feige would do it, because I will say this: if you are a Fox X-Men fan, here's what you can expect. There'll be no real changes with your TV shows, because if you notice, all the television shows they develop have a loose connection to the movies.
Right.
So there'll be no change. But as far as the films are concerned, depending on how successful they are, New Mutants, there probably won't be a change because they're not making that movie for that much. Deadpool might be a change depending on how much they spend and make.
Mm-hmm.
But the current X-Men films, beginning with the next one that they do, okay, the guy that's directed, who's been in charge of the X-Men film franchise, you're gone. All of those stars, all these young stars that just got signed, you guys, gone. Why? Because Disney has a whole crop of young kids that they already control, who they want to make the stars of tomorrow. They're going to recast every single one of those parts. All of you are gone.
And if you do a New Mutants, or a X-Men film with them being very young kids and first coming in, and actually kind of go back, kind of what we're trying to do when we went back a couple
First Class.
With First Class,
Yeah.
You can actually do that really cool
and make it current.
And make it current.
It will be current. Trust me. They are going to get past all. Nobody has been able to figure out a way to make these films current without having to do the slow voyage to nowhere as we're waiting for them to meet up with their current, with today.
The 90s, right.
You know, well, no, not just the 90s. No, forget that part has changed.
No,
we need them to get to the 21st century ASAP.
Right. Oh, I agree.
The thing is like, you're never going to get there.
A whole reboot.
It is going to be a wholesale top to bottom reboot. And they're going to go out and find themselves some new stars to inhabit these parts. And they're going to start, looking at the success of Spider-Man Homecoming, they're on the right track.
Right.
They know how to have teenagers. So,
right, exactly.
Boom.
And done very well.
Sophie Turner, love you, kid, but you're out of a job.
We'll figure out something else for her to do there. So
she can be in a background scene buying something at a grocery store as the X-Men walk through. That's what they'll use her for.
They might.
But her friend Macy Williams picked the right time to join because she's part of the New Mutants.
Right. Yeah.
She'll keep her job. Sophie Turner, you out.
So wanted to jump onto a few things real quick.
Yes.
Because we're running out of time
Yes.
very quickly, just to kind of hit on a few things and get some reactions. Of course, talk about Justice League coming up. We do have news about Gal Gadot saying that she's not going to sign on for Wonder Woman 2 unless there's a change with Brett Ratner's involvement with the Rat Pack Dune Entertainment.
Yes, his company that has been pretty much backing a lot of films in Hollywood, including including a lot of the DC comic book films, which was the only way that he could actually have a successful movie.
Right. Well, and he made a ton of money off of Wonder Woman.
Yes.
And
he's made a ton of money off of all of them.
Right. He has. So basically, he's got a history. Olivia Munn and Natasha Henstridge has accused him of sexual misconduct. Ellen Page has said that he outed her on the set of X-Men: The Last Stand. And basically, Warner Brothers has a contract with him through the end of next year. So, does this put Wonder Woman 2 on hold, or does this mean that Warner Brothers is going to bite the bullet and buy him out?
What will probably happen is the president of Warner Brothers, Kevin Tsujihara, will probably go in with the shareholders, and they'll make a decision. And Warner Brothers lawyers will go to talk to Brett Ratner and say, "Hey, dude, this ain't working."
Right.
You know, now, here's the way that we can do it. You'll make a lot more money out of this whole thing if you just resign.
Step down,
Right.
yeah.
Well, I thought
If
he
you
don't
don't
resign from. He at least stepped back from control of that.
Yeah,
Everything that grew.
they'll follow the whole Harvey Weinstein thing.
Yeah.
While he has stepped back, he's still a part of what they do.
Right.
And Gal Gadot would not be still
Right.
talking like
No,
this
right.
if it wasn't a big deal. No, he's got to leave.
Yeah, I
Rat
agree.
Pack, if you guys enjoy making money, you're going to have to let him go. Got to cut him loose. You know, he's got to be
He's a
gone.
liability.
Right. He definitely is. All right.
Okay.
Right. There we go. The new Doctor Who image with our
Yeah.
female doctor
Coming
popped
up.
up this week. I think that looks like a really cool outfit. The only thing I thought of with her shirt was Mork from Mork.
Yep.
Was
Suspenders.
the little
Yep.
suspenders and the shirt the way it was. That just reminded me of early Mork and Mindy, but still very cool. I went,
Well,
I can see that. That's a cool outfit. I like it.
the big change is it's not just the fact that she's a female, it's the fact that she's younger.
Yeah.
You know, so that you got to have a youthful sensibility. So having a little bit of color and everything after the last couple of doctors they've had works. I'm digging it. I'm digging her. I'm ready to see it. Again, Peter Capaldi, I love the dude. I wish he could have stayed at least another season because I wanted to see more, especially after this last year. I enjoyed this past last season of Doctor Who.
And I've not seen it yet because it's not come to the streaming service near me since I don't have cable. Since I'm one of those cord cutters. I'm not a millennial, but I play one on TV.
Try the BBC America app.
Well, I thought you had to have BBC America for that to work.
Well,
I thought
you should be able to buy the official BBC. Well, I shouldn't say BBC America. BBC has their own app, of which all episodes of Doctor Who are on the app. They're available through it.
I will check that out because I know that some of those you have to prove what cable company you're with or whatever. And since mine is, so
trust me,
if it's there, then I will check that out because I do watch my CW shows off of the right.
see, look at you. You still support CW.
Oh, just
good for you.
I have to say I've cut back because Arrow is no longer on my list.
Yeah,
God bless Jason and Mel, but
hey, look, I love everybody in the cast, but you got to get rid of Guggenheim. Guggenheim has to go.
Yeah.
Guggenheim, you got to stop running that show. You just need to go.
Last season was so painful. I just quit. I just done. I'm out, and I haven't gone back. So
yeah, don't blame you.
All right. Stranger Things 2 on Netflix.
Haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, doing very, very well.
And I'm sorry I haven't seen it yet, but I am getting to it.
And it's one of those, that I watched it in a few days because I just got sucked in, but that's how I was with the first season. Have you seen it? Have you seen Stranger Things?
I have not. I'm not a Netflix subscriber because of my poor internet out in the woods.
I understand that.
But I hear it's very good.
Yeah.
No real internet for the Batcave? Come on.
Supercomputers. I don't need internet.
Oh,
they still run on reels.
Heck yeah.
But the little,
I'm sorry.
Reel and vacuum tubes, man.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
ticker tape comes out
Hot as hell in that place.
Yeah, technology-wise, you're just keeping it real.
Yes,
Okay.
If there's a nuclear war, he's
I'm ready to go. Yeah, EMP will mean nothing in my book.
So I enjoyed the second season. For a while when I was watching it, I thought, it's not good as the first season, but it convinced me as we went along that it was. And the really interesting thing, if you've seen the first season,
Yes.
they actually build on some of the characters that are more in the background in the first season,
Cool.
where they've got some depth to these characters. Where you're like, oh, Nancy, who's the older sister and love interest of Steve, both of those characters are flushed out really well in the season.
Good.
So I really enjoyed that. and I did find which character was my favorite. So and I forget his name at the moment. The character was missing the teeth in the first season.
Oh yeah,
a little shorter,
heavier
guy.
Yeah.
This season, he became my #1 favorite.
That kid can sing.
He can sing because I've seen him on
YouTube
Tonight Show. He's on the Tonight Show singing some other stuff. So yeah. So that's out there, and I think we'd be remiss not to mention the Strange Happenings was released since our last show with American Wasteland. If you guys have not seen that, you can go to YouTube. As we talked earlier, Brittney, our great co-host, she directed that thing, and our good friend Jason wrote it and was very involved with it. Just a fantastic show. Have you seen it all the way through now?
I've seen it all the way through. I've even seen my cameo in it.
Yeah, it was a good cameo.
It was a good cameo. But I gotta say, American Wasteland Entertainment has their own channel on YouTube.
They do.
So go find them on YouTube. Just go ahead and just accept the whole thing because they are always coming up with new stuff. But this Strange Happenings, you need to check it out.
I honestly, I saw it and went, this would work for something like Netflix or Hulu.
Yes.
You could make a series, a 10-episode series on this, and you could suck people in. I really thought, because I've watched stuff on Netflix and Hulu, not nearly as good as this. And I'm like, wow, these guys have always put out good stuff. The Drifter series has been awesome. I've enjoyed everything they've done, but I watched this and went, wow, this takes it to the next level. These guys are doing some great work. If somebody's out there watching, check them out and give them a contract. They need something because
these kids are uber talented.
They are, and they're working on a shoestring budget. And they can make you a buttload of money.
Just wait till they release Barker Hole. Barker Hole.
It's coming soon.
It's coming.
I haven't heard a release date. So.
Oh, not yet, but when they do, remember, American Wasteland Entertainment on YouTube.
And there's somebody who's a detective over here.
What?
Actually, Sheriff's deputy. Is that what it is?
I wasn't trying to promote myself, honest.
All right. So that's oh, and last but not least, talking about Brittney's films. Wanted to mention South of Swan Creek.
Yes.
Is a film that she directed out there, winning a ton of awards for short films. Just numerous things, including Brittney winning one for Best Inspirational, which is the director category. I think it was in the LA Short Film Festival. She is just racking it up. She is uber talented. As we know, we're lucky to have her with us.
She's
and just
fantastic.
Want to promote that out. If that's a type, check this show out. This looks really super cool, and you need to check that out because it's
check your local film festival.
Yes, because it will be there and it's going to rock.
Yes.
All right.
Well, listen, I think it's about time we wrap this up.
So we're going to skip our normal games because we've gone a little long. Skip the game, skip the Sensei Keith knowledge that we normally get.
Not much knowledge.
Oh my gosh. And skip our awesome quote game that we normally play with our guests. Michael, we'll play it with you next time.
Oh yeah, I would love to return.
Yes, please do. I know, most definitely. It's always good to have Batman with us. Unless he's working on trying to take us down, then that's never good.
I'm not a villain, so I have no worries.
Yeah, but he does that for the Justice League, so
that's different. Have you seen the refrigerator? People keep dipping into what's marked as Batman stuff.
That's right.
Well, as long as they're not putting girlfriends in there, I guess we're okay.
Oh.
All right. All right. And ending on that poor note.
Yes.
We would like to thank Michael, though, for joining us and coming over talking Batman and talking about Hero Alliance, and make sure you check that out.
Yeah, heroesalliance.org.
Cool. And you can find, I think, Heroes Alliance also on Facebook, right?
Yes, they do have a Facebook group, Heroes Alliance. Their main website, again, is heroesalliance.org. If locally, if you are interested in portraying a DC or Marvel hero,
or a child, or other,
for to go out and see some kids, and make a difference in some kids' lives, make a kid smile that maybe hasn't smiled in a while. Definitely write them, email them. They'll get their information, get your information over to me. If you have an organization or something like that would maybe like to see some superheroes make an appearance, be sure to do the same thing. And even we kind of have a side group that Felicia and I have called Ozarks Cosplay. Ozarks Cosplay is basically a focal point for places like the Heroes Alliance and the Ghostbusters of the Ozarks, the 501st, places like that. So maybe you don't need Batman or Superman or Captain America at your event, but you want the Ghostbusters there, or you want some Star Wars guys there. By all means, go to the Facebook page, Ozarks Cosplay, CAUSE play, and shoot us a message, and we'll get that information out to whomever, because it's not about me and my organization. It's about the kids and making a difference.
Wow, you do fantastic work.
I try.
Thank you.
Wow. And you can also catch future episodes of Behind the Counter at the Comic Cave, comiccave.com. In fact, they have a major Black Friday special coming.
Yes.
Everything in store, 50% off.
Is it only like a Black Friday thing, or
yes,
like?
I think it's only on that Friday. I
Yeah.
don't think it goes to Saturday.
So there's not like a Cyber Monday or anything like that.
No,
So we're old school with this.
Yeah,
we're going old
you
school.
gotta show up.
Awesome.
So just go to thecomiccave.com.
Go early before the Black Friday. Scope out what they've got,
and then come back the next day.
and then come back the next day and get your stuff before it's gone.
Get all your Christmas shopping done for the geek that you know,
or yourself,
or us.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
us. Yeah, we'd like.
We are happy to take the presents.
I can be
and
bright.
Brittney would like anything Harley Quinn. So
Yes.
All right. So I'm Larry Lytle of geekycool.com.
I'm Keith, here with Titans the Fantastic.
And numerous other things.
Yes, numerous other things. And this is Mr. Michael Decker, a.k.a. Batman. So, for all of us here at Titans the Fantastic, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.